Hey, I'm Jim Barry. Welcome once again to Miami Life, the show about the stories and the people that make South Florida unique. Today, we look at how to beat South Florida's high cost of living, meet a young champion of our environment, and we will look back on a Miami history maker. But let's start on the streets of South Florida and the homeless situation in our community. It is estimated that close to 6,000 people are homeless in Broward and Miami-Dade counties. And come October 1st, a new state law will make it illegal to sleep in public areas. So, where will these people go? That is a question we posed to Ron Book, the chair of Miami-Dade's Homeless Trust. He is also an influential lobbyist who splits his time helping the powerful and our most vulnerable neighbors. Here's my wide-ranging talk with this week's Person of Interest.
We have an obligation and responsibility for hand-ups, not hand-outs.
Ron, this is no way to live.
No. I mean, this is squalor-like conditions.
We met Ron Book at a makeshift encampment in Miami, a place that the homeless call home. It's a rough existence. Book is chair of the Miami-Dade Homeless Trust. His initial 2-year stint has turned into a 33-year crusade.
And I thought originally that when you found somebody unhoused, if you offered them a place to live,
that's it.
It would be easy. It's just not.
As soon as we arrived, Book went into savior mode, trying to find shelter space for some of this encampment's unfortunate residents.
You'll let me know? I want to know what, where, why, when.
A new state law will allow cities and towns to scoop up homeless people, so they will no longer be an eyesore to the more fortunate. It's called House Bill 1365.
1365 calls on the communities to create these, quote, certified encampments, close quote.
Like this?
I can tell you.
Like this? Under the new law, a homeless person could be arrested. Like Broward Sheriff Gregory Tony, it's not a solution that Book favors.
You can't arrest your way out of homelessness. You can't turn the jails into monster homeless shelters.
So Book's Homeless Trust is creating more housing. In Cutler Bay, it bought this hotel to turn it into senior housing for homeless elderly people. He was stunned by the "not in my neighborhood" reaction from some members of that community.
How can you not want an elderly person to find a home, a roof over their heads?
So you're saying people have lost compassion?
I think people have. That is a new phenomenon that we have not experienced in 34 years of the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust's existence.
Ron Book is not just a tireless advocate, he's tireless, period.
All I know is hard work. I probably work harder today at my age than I did 25 years ago. Why? Because I get up every day and it's a new challenge.
Book splits his time between South Florida and Tallahassee, lobbying for the rich and powerful with the politically influential. You know what people say about lobbyists, Ron? They say they give money to everybody so they can get their way with anybody.
Look, I never shy away from admitting that we are prolific fundraisers, we are prolific givers. I don't ask a client to contribute if I'm not willing to write a check myself. I never shy away from admitting that my phone calls probably get returned a little faster, and I probably get an appointment or two a little faster than somebody else.
Book was just 13 when he started politicking. He drafted a petition and picketed the home of the mayor of North Miami so his neighborhood park could get lights. He quit the track team at the University of Florida to beat a fast track to law school before latching onto the coattails of Florida Senator Bob Graham. Now, Book is considered the big dog of Florida lobbyists. He has weathered questions about double dealing and headlines 4 years ago about a DUI arrest. But nothing seemed to slow him down until he had a bout with throat cancer. I was worried for you.
I appreciated it.
Yeah.
I'm probably too mean to die, but I'm also too determined to let something beat me. And when you think you're going to die, or really believe you're going to die, you're not going to be here, you double down on the things that really matter to you.
One person who really matters to him is his daughter, Lauren. Did you really spend $1 million on her wedding?
Did I clam up on one question?
Lauren Book is a prominent state lawmaker whose story of being sexually abused as a child by her nanny led to a parade of reforms limiting where sex offenders could live. Ron Book, the homeless advocate, was accused of forcing past sex offenders to live under a bridge by successfully lobbying for such strict laws.
Am I a hard ass about it? Come home one day and find out that your child has been sexually assaulted by somebody at a young age. And in my daughter's case, it started at 10 and a half. You tell me how you'd feel.
Book enjoys the trappings of wealth and prestige. His luxury wheels, proof that he has more than most. Yet, Book says he learns the most about life from those who have the least. On a trip to one of these homeless encampments, Book says he was moved by the generosity one person showed to his 7-year-old granddaughter, who had tagged along for the trip.
And she takes out a package of powdered donuts. They're sealed. A woman who has nothing. But she has character. And she hands those donuts to my granddaughter, who certainly has plenty of everything. But she takes these donuts out and gives them to my granddaughter. Should be a message for everybody in this community.
Mr. Ron Book, along with the hotel in Cutler Bay, the Homeless Trust is looking to buy another property in South Dade. The plan is to convert it into tiny homes for up to 100 people who right now have no place to stay. Up next on Miami Life, the high cost of everyday life.
Housing costs going up, insurance costs are going up, the cost of food, everything.
For many families, living paycheck to paycheck is an uncomfortable reality. We've got some ideas that could help ease the financial crunch. And we look back on the storied career of Miami Dolphins legend Mercury Morris and the mayor of Perfectville. Welcome back. Well, for many people, the cost of everyday life has just spiraled. Just paying for basic necessities can feel like an uphill battle. This year's United Way of Florida report shows that nearly half of households statewide, 46%, are struggling to pay for basic needs. We're talking about food, housing, and transportation. CBS News Miami's Joe Gorcho set out to find out what changes you can make to your daily routines to save some money.
Hundreds of people shuffle in and out of buses in downtown Miami every morning.
Downgrading the vehicles, whatever you need to do to cut down your prices.
This mother of 3 changed her wheels to cut down on expenses, but she didn't cut down on her strong spirit for her kids.
If you look like you're crying and struggling, they're gonna feel it, and that's gonna pass on to them. So I don't want them to feel that pressure. That's that's for me to deal with.
And she's not alone in her struggle. A United Way of Florida study shows that around 40 to 63% of households in Miami-Dade and Broward struggle to pay for basic needs like housing, childcare, and transportation.
For 2 years, I was homeless.
This 70-year-old man said he lived on the streets after a disability forced him to retire.
You get to a point where if you can't work,
You're on the streets.
And even when he was working, he says it was difficult.
Barely enough for a place to stay in a motel. And then I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get them to come down on the rate so I could afford it. I had no money for food. I had to go to food banks to eat.
Housing costs going up, insurance costs are going up, the cost of food, everything, like you said, has just been going up dramatically.
Craig Kirshner spends his days helping his clients manage the ups and downs of the economy, hitting home the importance of spending less and trying to save more.
As Americans do better at their job and make more money, unfortunately, they increase their lifestyle. And oftentimes they increase their lifestyle higher even than their income. So that's one of the temptations, is to avoid that lifestyle creep and making sure that you're living within that budget and ideally under your budget.
Sometimes I go to buy something, but when I see the price, I cannot.
Avoiding the temptation to overspend sometimes requires a little creativity, mixed with water and time. Putting a credit freeze on your card to ice spontaneous spending.
I'm not saying you have to do that, but these are some extremes where, maybe you need some help, where you have one-click shopping. It's so easy to overspend quickly. So you might want to take your credit card out of those systems. So that way, if you want to buy something, you have to literally type in your credit card.
Kirstner understands it means making tough decisions, ones like Centrina made, trading in a car for a bus ride to protect your financial health.
That was Joe Gorcho reporting. Well, this past week, we lost a cornerstone of the Miami Dolphins' 72 unbeaten team. Mercury Morris passed away at the age of 77. I interviewed Merc many, many times, and I can tell you he was truly one of a kind. He was one of the most electrifying players during the team's early 70s heyday. He brought lightning to Larry Zonka's thunder, and together with Jim Kick, they formed one of the best running back trios in the history of the NFL. Morris struggled with drug abuse for a while after his playing career ended and actually spent time in prison, convicted for cocaine trafficking. But Morris felt wrongly accused about that conviction and even in his later years wanted to prove his innocence and clear his name. But on the topic of football, no member of the unbeaten team was more proud of the record than Morris, who insisted that the 72 Dolphins could never, ever be matched. And that would lead to the classic Reebok ad, Perfectville, Population 1, in which Morris and several of his teammates appeared. Well, still to come, meet the young man working to repair our natural coastlines by planting mangroves. We'll tell you about that. Also, Miami in the 70s and 80s was just a little bit different, and one man had a big hand in the Magic City's incredible growth. We'll examine the legacy of Miami's first Hispanic mayor next on Miami Life. Welcome back. Hispanic Heritage Month runs through October 15th, and today we are turning the spotlight on Miami's first Hispanic mayor, Maurice Ferre. CBS News Miami's Hank Tester profiles this Hispanic pioneer who led the city during a time of incredible growth and turbulence.
This is his Rolodexes.
He has many more than that.
It is a work in progress. Florida International University's Maurice A. Ferre Institute for Civic Leadership. It's set to open in November of this year. The institute reflects the legacy of Maurice Ferre, the visionary six-time mayor of Miami.
The man regarded by many as the father of modern-day Miami has passed away at age...
Maurice Ferre's contribution to Miami, why is he important? Longtime community leaders say he should be remembered as the mayor who guided Miami through rough times, but always maintained, promoted Miami as the economic and banking center for all of Latin America. Ferre, in his own words.
I think Miami's an international city, the banking community, the expansion of Brickell Avenue. These things are products of my imagination.
The handsome mayor operated with a sense of social justice, remembered as a people person. His daughter Mimi, one of 6 children,
who saw Miami as the gateway of the future, as the city of the future.
Ferre, a native of Puerto Rico, born into a family of entrepreneurs, engineers, Ferre held degrees in architectural engineering and business and was a smooth politician with national and international connections.
He was very, multifaceted.
Ferre was mayor from 1973 to 1985. He dealt with the McDuffie riots, the Mariel boat lift, which saw the city overrun with Cuban refugees, the cocaine cowboys with the money they brought and the violence they generated. All that packed into 1 year, 1980, and yet always optimistic, positive, understanding.
You might not have agreed with him because he wasn't easy, but he listened and he was respectful, and they always liked to tell me that they learned so much from him.
This was part of the plans.
Mimi Ferre is the driving force behind the Ferre Institute, a commitment that runs deep. It is her connection to her father, family, and community that plays out in her untiring devotion to the project.
He dedicated himself to our city, but he also dedicated himself to us.
At FIU's Ferre Institute, Hank Tester, CBS News, Miami.
Hank, thanks for that. A young South Florida man is the driving force behind a growing movement to repair our natural coastlines. He started after his neighborhood was flooded by Hurricane Irma back in 2017. CBS News Miami's Dave Warren explains how he is making Miami proud, one mangrove at a time.
To me, planting mangroves, not only is it, an entertaining and fun activity, but I personally really feel helpful and feel like I can make an impact doing something like this and making a difference.
That difference starts small. Will Sharuas has been growing and planting these for a while now. That's one down and a lot more to go.
I've presented my A Million Mangroves initiative to many different events, climate summits.
It's 1 million mangroves in the ground by 2030. It's a goal that has numerous benefits for those who call these waters and coastline home.
Right now, our coastal infrastructure has impacted their footprint significantly, and that's why we have those policies in place right now for their protection.
Landolph Road Barbregos is an associate professor at the University of Miami's College of Engineering. He says replacing mangroves with coastal development has consequences.
There is that aspect of decreasing the habitat. There is that aspect of altering the coastline itself and its beauty, but there is also the other aspect that we're exposing ourselves to the impact of those storms that we might have.
2017, Hurricane Irma. That storm inspired Will to start his movement.
And that was a really impactful hurricane because it really affected not only me, but my community, my hometown. It was the first hurricane like I remember living through, and the streets were completely flooded. The airport was really flooded. So that's when I firsthand kind of realized that climate change is real and sea level rise is real.
That realization led to action. He founded Forces of Nature. He started it alone, but now has many who want to help him achieve his goal. One mangrove at a time, on the way to 1 million. He's not alone.
A lot of my friends helped me. I've invited a lot of friends, family, and neighbors out to help and clean up. Not only clean up, but also plant.
Coastal cleanup and planting is just half of what his organization does. The other half involves helping the movement grow.
One's the cleanups, one's the plantings, one's kind of researching and how to best, maximize and optimize growing mangroves at my house or in a lab. And then the last part is the education component.
It has not gone unnoticed. He's been recognized as a 2024 Prudential Emerging Visionary, receiving $5,000 to take his vision to the next level. For now, it's back to work, working towards his goal, one mangrove at a time. So some of these plantings are natural. A lot of them are ones that Will and his Forces of Nature nonprofit have already put in. Put in about a couple thousand right now, but they're aiming for 1 million. It'll help preserve and protect South Florida's coastline. In Matheson Hammock State Park, I'm Dave Warren for CBS News Miami.
Great cause, and we wish him the very best moving forward. We'll be back with more Miami Life right after this. Coming up on the next episode of Miami Life, we're going to go back to school. Sort of. Florida International University is having quite the moment. It is now considered one of the top public universities in the country. The man leading FIU in this pivotal moment is University President Ken Jessel. We'll discuss how FIU has become an educational powerhouse and what it is like leading a public university in these politically charged times. Watch the full story next week. And of course, we love getting feedback from the Miami Life audience. A big story, of course, for the past couple of weeks was the detainment of Dolphin star Tyreek Hill outside of the stadium by Miami-Dade police officers. One viewer questioned if a double standard was involved here. He asks, why was the police officer placed on administrative leave? Because the offender was a Dolphins player involved? He goes on to say that Dolphin players are not above the law. And someone else thought the situation could have been diffused if Hill had done one thing: comply. Another story we brought you was the growing condo crisis in South Florida, soaring assessment costs, forcing some people out of their condos. One viewer compares buying a condo to owning shares in a corporation. You could do everything right, and it could still fail. Someone else says the condo laws are there to save lives. Condo owners are responsible for upkeep, and if they lose value, well, it's on them. Keep sending us your comments and feedback to cbsmiami@cbs.com. And with that, we come to the end of another episode of Miami Life. Remember, we'll see you every Thursday at 6:30 on the stream for a brand new episode. I'm Jim Barry. Thanks for watching. Good night.